Hello, everybody. What day is it? November 8th, I guess it is. All right. Got a good one today, a good question that rolled in that I thought everybody would benefit from. So here we are. Let me get my screen set up appropriately. Probably should have had this done before. Okay, here we go. All right. So here's the question. This is from CT, who posted this question in the squads feature for Linchpin in the BTWB app. So here's what Chana had to say. I'm new to Linchpin, finishing up my free trial, and I'm sold. Happy to hear that. I love it because I don't always like it. First of all, I need to steal that as like a promotional line. It's so great. I love it because I don't always like it. That's exactly it. If you're actually programming with variants, you're going to be exposed to things that you enjoy and things that you don't enjoy instead of just biasing it to one thing all the time. So, okay, great. I love it because I don't always like it. I'm a conservative lifter, and I'm wondering how much of a disservice I'm doing to my fitness in the fact that I don't do 1-rep maxes. I'm 47 years old. I'm working out for longevity, and there is still the desire to see progress and maybe, or otherwise said, not lose fitness. I've adopted the mindset of moving moderate weight well. How much am I shortchanging myself in terms of maintaining strength and maybe getting a little stronger? Thank you so much for the work you do. Really appreciate the thoughtfulness and purpose that goes into your programming. So, fantastic question. Excellent question. So, let's dive right in. There's a lot there, and there's a couple facets that we're going to chat about, which I really like. So, all right, here we go. All right, I'm going to move this over here. Bear with me. Technology. All right, here we go. So, first of all, they've adopted the mindset of moving moderate weight well. Excellent mindset. Great mindset. That mindset, and this is potentially an oversimplification, that if I had them here face to face and I said this, they would say, well, of course I meant that. But that mindset should be ubiquitous with everything that you do. Your mindset should be moving moderate weight well, moving light weight well, moving heavy weight well. Basically, the mindset should be moving well. Period. End of story. Doesn't matter if you're moving fast or if you're moving slowly, you're moving well. It doesn't matter if it's a barbell lift or a gymnastics lift or a gymnastics movement, you're doing it well. So that should be something that's so ideally for everyone out there, so obvious that it almost doesn't need to get said. Whatever you're doing, try to do it well. So I think the basis of the question is, I'm just going to stick with moderate loading, 47, not looking to walk on stage anytime soon. Maybe really heavy weights are a bit scary because they seem to be potentially injurious, and that's why now the goal is, hey, I'm 47, I want to move moderate weights well, and that's that. Am I shortchanging myself? That's kind of the encapsulation. So, and the other one is, am I doing a disservice to my fitness by avoiding 1-rep maxes? And this this came up because, today's Tuesday? Yesterday on Linchpin was a 7x1 front squat. So this question got posted, on a 7x1 front squat day where, it's exactly what we were doing. So first of all, a disservice by avoiding 1-rep maxes. I think it's worthwhile a little bit to just define what a 1-rep max is. There can be a 1-rep max and there can be a heavy single. And I think those both have incredible values. So on a 7x1 day, you could interpret that as, oh boy, I have to max out. I have to lift the absolute maximum weight possible for me today as a human being for a single. That's what a 7x1 means. And then maybe even try to do it a bit more and see if I get a failed lift, and then I really know that the lift before that was my true 1-rep max. That does exist, finding a real 1-rep max. You can also look at a 7x1 day and not feel any pressure to max out in any way, shape, or form, and just say that today I'm going to lift 7 heavy singles. whatever that happens to mean or feel like today, that's the goal. And if I get near a potential old PR or PB, great. If I don't, who cares? I'm going to lift 7 heavy singles today. So, that's a bit open to interpretation as to what a heavy single means. I personally look back on some things I've done over my life, and some things I'm proud of, and some things I'm not proud of. And I try to be very open and honest here about, let's just say, dumb things that I've done earlier on in my CrossFit career, that if I had a time machine, I would go back and probably not do them, but I'm not going to act like I didn't do those things. And so I look back on lifts that I'm not proud of and I would never even consider doing these days. I'm talking about 1 rep max squats and deadlifts and things like that took about 10 seconds to finish the lift. And the entire time during that 10 seconds, your central nervous system thinks that you're trying to kill it, and you're convulsing head to toe in a full body shake, but somehow the bar is still incrementally moving in the direction that you want at an absolute snail's pace, and through just whatever you want to call it, stubbornness and pig-headedness and potential negligent disregard for your own body, you just continued with the lift until it's over. I've done that. I'm not going to sit here and say that I haven't done that. And that's a 1 rep max, okay? Yes, true. But that's not what it has to be like. And I would say right now, I would prefer if that's not what it was like. And I'm certainly in the phase of my fitness journey that I have no desire to lift like that, or not even to come close to lifting like that. I'm interested in lifting in a way that is appropriately stimulating and challenging to my body and drives fitness forward, but isn't anywhere close to being idiotic, negligent, reckless, unsafe, whatever it happens to be. That's Jen, see you tuned in. I hope you're well. That's how I'm rolling these days. So I don't lift like that anymore, probably never should have. I made a lot of mistakes. I'm very open about them. So now, for example, when I do a 7x1 day, like we did yesterday, which was a front squat, I'm looking to move whatever feels appropriately challenging for a heavy single on that day, not to truly max out. So going through how I did the lift yesterday, because I did not max out, didn't intend on maxing out, I just wanted to lift what felt heavy. I estimate my 1 rep max front squat at probably about 325. That's my guess, okay? I don't know exactly if that's true, because I haven't really done a true 1 rep max in quite some time, because I don't want to go quite there. I'll tiptoe close to it, but I won't go right there. And that's why it's a bit of an estimation, but I'll tell you how I came up with that estimation. And it's obviously from having lifting for the last almost 2 decades that I've got a good idea what that is. But so since that's where I estimate my 1 rep, 325, 80% of that would be 260. So for my 7x1 day, anything at 260 or above, as far as I'm concerned, I'm in the neighborhood of 80% or more. We're doing good work. That's a heavy day. That's a heavy single. I could do all 7 at 260 and be perfectly fine, and I wouldn't shortchange my fitness in any way, shape, or form. 90%, if I get around there, would be about 292 pounds. Okay? So what I did yesterday, did my warm-up. I did 95 pounds for a triple, 135 for a triple. These are just warm-up sets. I'm taking 2 minutes rest between each one of these. 185 for a triple, 205 for a triple, 225 for a triple. Then I started with 3 minutes rest. Did 245 for a double, see how that felt. And the whole time that I'm doing this, as unscientific as it sounds, I'm just listening to my body. Again, I've been lifting long enough that I know generally how 135 feels, how 185 feels, how 225 feels, etc., etc. And anyone who's lifted for a bit knows those, knows whatever weights you touch on a regular basis. And on any day that you're lifting, if you're listening to your body, does the barbell feel pretty darn good today? And it seems like we're going to have a great day in the gym. Does it feel how it should? Or does it just feel heavy as heck for no apparent reason? And so I'm listening to my body while this is going on. This is why the warm-up sets are so important, and why not rushing the warm-up is so important. It's a critical time. You're not only revving up your body and your musculature and your central nervous system to actually do some work, your body's also telling you and giving you input that you should be receiving to base these future decisions off of. So I did 245 for a double, felt pretty good. 3 minutes rest. 265 for a triple. Now, like I said, anything 260 or above was 80%, so we're good to go. I could start counting that as my working set as far as I'm concerned. Hit 265 for a triple, and it felt pretty darn good. So I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna count that as my first working set because it felt so good. I'm gonna bump to 275, and when I start this next lift at 275, that's going to be my first of my 7 singles. So if I'm estimating my 1 rep max at about 3 1/4, at 275, I'm 50 pounds below that. Well within a very comfortable, safe, appropriate tolerance. And that's one of my singles. Nowhere near a 1 rep max, but plenty heavy, percentage-wise speaking, to provide me with all the strength and fitness that I need and drive the needle forward. And I did one, and I took 3 minutes rest between all these lifts, and I just listened to my body, and I crept up with little 5-pound increments from 275, 285, 290, 295, 300, 305 for the last lift. Now, I could have made potentially bigger jumps. Maybe I could have jumped 10 pounds each time, and probably could have been okay. But those smaller jumps, they just allowed me to not get in hot water too fast, not to get into the deep end of the pool before I realized that I was there, and give myself a lot of input from my brain and my body to be talking to one another and make sure that what I was doing was appropriately challenging and not getting into the inappropriate realm in any way, shape, or form. And everything felt okay. And when I finished my seventh single at 305, I racked it, and it was, don't get me wrong, it was heavy. But nothing about it felt inappropriate. Nothing about it felt any degradation of form, technique, anything at all. It was all completely within what you would want to have good, safe parameters. And I felt like I could have made 1 or 2 more jumps. And I intentionally did not. There's the thing. So I left some on the table, if you will, and I walked away and lived to fight another day, lived to train another day. And nothing about that lifting session put anything in the record books compared to, potentially my 1 rep max, but everything about that lifting session drove the needle forward. So when saying that, you're thinking about a heavy single, just think about, do you mean just a heavy single that is appropriate and okay for your ability? Or are you thinking about that crazy 1 rep max? Because those are 2 very different things, but they're both a single, but they're wildly different. So just kind of keep that in the back of your head. So back to the question, never want to do singles again? Okay, that's your choice. You can still reap lots of fitness, lots of gains, and you will be okay. You could do doubles, triples, 5s, 10s, 8s. You're not going to be shortchanged with any of those rep ranges, okay? Singles are fantastic, but if you made a decision to never do them again, you're not going to be ill prepared for life. Let me just say that. You might not walk onto a stage and win a powerlifting meet, but that's probably not your goal, and that's okay. We're talking about general physical preparedness. As this person said, their goal is being strong, fit, and healthy, and longevity. You're going to be okay if that's just the decision that you choose to make based upon where you are in your fitness journey. But just remember, no matter what the rep scheme is, so you eliminate singles, right? And now you're doing just triples, just 5s, just whatever. It's still up to you whether you're moving well or poorly, almost regardless of the loading or regardless of the rep range. There's no magical safety in a different loading or magical safety in a different rep range. It all comes down to the individual being actively engaged in that lift, regardless of loading, regardless of rep range. So as I said at the beginning, everyone's goal should be moving well all the time. So let's say you want to, whatever it happens to be, you always just want to stop at your perceived rate of exertion when you get around 80%, when it feels that kind of heavy on yourself, I think you'll be okay. I think you'll be wonderfully fit for life. Are you leaving a little bit of fitness on the table? Maybe. That's probably the honest truth. Maybe. You probably are. But again, if you're just being fit for regular life, I don't think you're going to be shortchanged in any way, shape, or form. And having healthy knees and backs and shoulders that feel good is way cooler than a huge 1 rep max, like unquestionably. And also don't be afraid to hit the old dumbbell option from time to time. That'll dose you up. What I liked about this question is it also tied into a question that I asked in the private group yesterday about sprinting as well. Because with 1 rep max lifts, we're talking about maximal efforts on the body. Very demanding, very intense, very impactful. Same deal with sprinting. Sprinting is, in its own domain, a maximal effort, or at least it can be, right? Just like we said before, yeah, you can lift that eye-popping 1 rep max, or you can just go for a heavy single that feels like an 80 to 85% effort, and then you stop. And I think you're going to be just fine for GBP in regular life. That same mindset, to a large degree, can be done with sprinting as well. So if you think about a heavy day, the goal of the heavy day is to expose yourself in a single modality sort of workout to a loading that is intentionally heavier than what you would get on a mixed modality day. On a classic 2, 3, 4 round workout that has a monostructural piece, a gymnastics piece, a weightlifting piece, you're probably going to have, moderate volume, moderate loading, things like that. It's not going to be super heavy. So the heavy days get you outside of that with some intentional variance to just focus on the strength. Same thing can be said with sprint days, right? Yes, we run in Helen, 3 rounds per time, 400-meter run, some kettlebell swings, and some pull-ups. But the pace that you run in Helen, even though your heart probably feels like it's going to explode, because of the pull-ups, because of the kettlebell swings, because there's not rest, it's 3 rounds back to back to back, that 400-meter run pace is going to be way slower than what you could potentially do on a 6x400-meter repeat day that you're taking 5 minutes rest between each one of those 400-meter repeats. It's yes, they're both 400s, but they're not even the same from a speed perspective. It's kind of the same way that you could look at heavy days. So while some people are like, eesh, the 1 rep maxes freak me out a little bit, I'm looking to go 80% and that's about it, there are plenty of people, based upon their age, based upon where they are on their fitness journey, whatever it happens to be, that have that same mindset or concern on a sprint day, where they're like, oof, 10 by 100 meter sprints? Do you want me to just snap both my hamstrings off? You're crazy. There could be plenty of people younger in life, whatever it happens to be, that they get no issue going out there and sprinting. They're just fine, or they're exposed themselves to it repeatedly, that they're a bit inoculated and they're good to go. But if you are one of those people that's a little concerned about the hamstrings, it's a sprint day, think about just what I said there. All you need to do to get some great benefit is not necessarily avoid sprinting, but sprint at a pace that is appropriate for you, for where you are. And if you are moving at a pace that is faster than what you would do in a mixed modality workout than Helen, then you are exposing yourself to wonderful, beneficial variance without operating at 100%. So maybe in Helen, your 400-meter runs are, let's just say, 2 minutes per 400-meter run for simple math, okay? On a 6x400-meter run day, if you're taking 5 minutes rest between each, let's say that you had the potential to run a minute 25 per 400, which is a wonderful 400. Okay, well, let's just say that you could do that. Minute 30, how about that for simple math? 2 minutes per 400 for Helen. You could do a minute 30 on a 6x400-meter run day. But that 90-second pace is like, makes you nervous. Well, what if you did all of them at 140 or 145? You're still giving yourself a different exposure than you would at that mixed modality workout. And this is probably more indicative of something that would occur at like a 200-meter, a 100-meter, or like a 50-meter kind of a deal. Probably not so much of a concern on a 400-meter or an 800-meter sort of a run, quote-unquote, sprint day, just due to the fact that now we're extending the distance even though you're running as hard as you can at that distance, your speed is going to be lower than it would be on a 200 or 100 or 50. And so, but point being, you're not running anywhere near like a 90% 400 meter run effort during Helen. But if on a 6x400 meter run day you kept everything around 85%, great, you're doing fantastic. So you could have potentially that same sort of mindset that this individual is talking about on a heavy day and apply it to a sprint day as well. And again, that's why fitness is so interesting. We're all on the same journey, but everyone's in a different phase, everyone has different capacities, everyone's a different age. And so this is why these podcasts are so important, because there's not just one off switch where, okay, you have now clicked this certain age. Every single human being is the exact same. You are 37 years old. You will never do a 1-rep max ever again. You will never sprint ever again because now you've toggled this date on the calendar. Everyone needs to understand these concepts, take a good honest look at themselves, see where they are in their fitness journey, and then make the best decision to keep themselves happy, fit, healthy, and moving forward for a long time to come. So that's that. I would say what encapsulates this really well is a phenomenal old school quote from Greg Glassman, in which he said, "The needs of Olympic athletes and our grandparents differ by degree, not kind." Okay? The needs of our Olympic athletes and our grandparents differ by degree, not kind. And so meaning, whether you're an Olympic athlete or a grandparent, you have the same needs. Needs meaning, gotta go below parallel. Life is going to force you to pick things up off the ground. Life is going to force you to locomote your body. Those don't change. The degree in which you need to get after those things, that is going to have some variance and change. But we all have very similar needs. And so the need, lifting heavy is beneficial. Locomoting your body, I don't even know if locomoting your body is a proper phrase, but moving your body at a quick pace is beneficial. And so doing it appropriately, that's the goal. So hopefully that helps. Here's some references if people want to kind of dive in and nerd out a little bit on these topics that have been covered a bit before. Varied Not Random podcast, or on the YouTube. Episode number 51 is entitled Sprint Without Pulling a Hamstring. It's a good one. Varied Not Random episode 56 is entitled At What Age Should You Not Do a 1-Rep Max Deadlift? And then Linchpin Conversations number 299 is entitled Why I Don't Time My 10 by 100 meter sprint days. So that's that. All right, we will end real quick with Linchpin Test 3 is coming up. It should happen November 18th through the 21st, which is a Friday through a Monday. Test 3 has a heavy deadlift. Linchpin Test 3 is 3 rounds for time, 21 wall ball shots, 14 handstand push-ups, and then 7 deadlifts. Those deadlifts are 315 pounds for the men and 205 pounds for the women. We'll have a prescribed option, we'll have a scaled option, we'll have a dumbbell option. We'll have opportunity for you to do it totally free. Just have a blast, do it, see where you shake out on the leaderboard, or to get a little cool piece of swag. A t-shirt, tank top, or a sweatshirt, which is actually not this sweatshirt that I'm wearing right now. This is one of the ones I tested out. There's some things I like about this, some things I don't. So there's another one I'm expecting to get in the mail today that I'm hoping solves some of the issues I don't like about this sweatshirt, and then that will be the sweatshirt which will be available to you. But it will be very similar. Pullover hoodie with just a nice, crisp linchpin on it. Very simple. That's the other piece of swag. No video needed. Just a fun community event. Registration will open probably the Monday previous to that, which will be November 14th. And that's about that. I'll start posting links when they are available. And hopefully everybody enjoys it. So have a good day, and we'll talk later.